Welcome back to Don Odell's Legends. This is the Devil DJ here in Boston, and we are absolutely honored tonight to have an acoustic set by the one and only Murali Coryell. And welcome.
Chris, great to see you, my friend.
Very nice to see you. Thank you for coming. Were you just in Europe?
I was just in Holland and one night in Germany for about 2.5 weeks. And I got back not long ago, and it was kind of cold and wet, but the people were very warm.
That's great. They love their blues.
They're wonderful people. I love the food and the people, and they love the music, so we all got along very well.
That's great.
Yes.
Well, if you're interested in the last name Coryell, Larry Coryell, who you may know as the very established jazz guitarist, is Muriel's father. And then, of course, your mother is a pretty famous actress as well.
Well, that was my grandmother.
Your grandmother was the famous. Now, your mother, Julie.
Julie. She was noteworthy also. Where she managed my father for what I would say was his most creative and best years of his career. And she also wrote a book called Jazz Rock Fusion, The People, the Music. And Miles Davis was the only person that would grant her an interview during that time. So she was quite involved in the creative and management side of my father's life and mine also. And unfortunately, both my parents have been passed away for several years now, but they certainly left a big impression and a lot of things to learn from and to try to get better at.
They had you in 1969, and as I understand it, they hung around with some pretty interesting cats, including Mr. Hendrix, as I understand it.
Yeah, Jimi Hendrix.
Yes.
Who it's no accident, I think, that he is one of the most influential guitarists for many people. But for me in particular, I really gravitated towards him. And my mom and dad both told me about a time that Jimi Hendrix picked me up backstage at a concert, either at the Fillmore East or the Scene, one of those places, because my dad and Jimmy used to jam together, and you can see pictures of them jamming together. I wish I could hear some of it. I have yet to find any recordings yet, but that was the way it was back then. And so Jimmy held me when I was a baby. I don't remember it, but my dad said perhaps something was transferred, from Jimmy to you, because he said you really love the blues, and Jimmy loved the blues.
Yes.
And then not long after that, we lived with Carlos Santana in San Francisco. And
was he well known maybe in San Francisco? Was he like
this was post Woodstock, so the Woodstock in '69 really kind of made him a name to a lot of people, but he hadn't become the Santana that he is today yet. Sure. But they were really they were following an Indian guru named Sri Chinmoy, and along with John McLaughlin, and they were given spiritual names. Santana's was Devadeep, and John McLaughlin's was Mahavishnu, and I was given a spiritual name, Murali, which is how they pronounce it in India. And Murali is the divine flute that is played by the Krishna. So it's a musical name, but of course, in America, we grew up saying Murali.
Yes.
And so, it is what it is. So Indian people generally call me Murali, and I'm cool with that. And people call me all kinds of things. So I'm all right with it.
What a great story.
And then after that, we lived with Jack Bruce.
Yes.
The bass player and vocalist for Cream, and that was in Scotland.
Ooh.
And those were my first childhood memories ever, was of chasing sheep in a field of tall grass in Scotland. So there was definitely some really interesting, amazing artists and people that I was around from a very young age. And I consider myself fortunate in some ways. It was different than the way a lot of other people may have grown up.
Yeah.
But I'm grateful to have been born into a musical family,
Yes.
and to be able to do music for a living.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
you do it very well. I know your last album, made in Texas in 2019.
Yes.
But you have a very special song that was released a little bit ago that I'd love for you to talk about. The fabulous song with Ukraine.
Talking about Ukraine.
Yes.
Yeah, it's called Ukraine War Cries. And it's kind of a song that I never meant to write it. I didn't know there was going to be a war. But like certain songs, certain events happen in life, and you have a reaction to it. And if you can have a musical reaction to it, it's a kind of therapy. And I love, I speak Russian. I studied Russian, and I love Russian people and Russian culture. And really, I love all cultures and people. I'm one of those people that I embrace diversity. I love the different foods and musics and people. There are in so many of all of the wonderful places I've traveled to. So, yeah. So that song was written in about 15 minutes.
Wow.
And I showed it to my band in Texas. I was on tour in Texas, and I showed it to him that night. And we played it, and it was somebody videotaped it, and I ended up sending it to President Zelensky.
Yes.
And in less than 2 minutes, he liked it.
I
I
shouldn't laugh. It's good for you, but it shows the power of what music can do. Hopefully it uplifted some folks for a little while over there.
I hope so. And I have gotten messages from people from Ukraine saying thank you for that song and helping to keep awareness there, because my travels around the world have taught me that we're very lucky to be here where we are, to have a home, to have a job, to have a family, and have all those things be okay.
Yes.
Many people are not as fortunate, and I admire people that have overcome adversity. Those are the people that I admire, because we all have problems, but then it all seems relative when you hear about something really bad. So as somebody who tends to get kind of emotional, and it's kind of the nature of this kind of music, it's an effort for me to try to keep on a somewhat even keel, or not get too high or too low, depending upon how things are going, because everything changes from day to day. You don't know what's going to happen from one day to the next, and I try to appreciate every day and every moment that we have.
Sure.
Yeah.
It's a great answer. And Ukrainian War Cries.
Ukraine.
Ukrainian War Cries. It's on YouTube.
And it's on Spotify and Amazon and Apple.
And I will recommend you really get the lyrics as well, because they're 15 minutes. That I did not know. They're pretty powerful.
And so there's the video of it, of the live performance, and then people said you should record it in the studio, and so that's what I did. So there's a studio version. And a video version, a live version, and they're both. I'm really proud of both of them. Yeah, good. And thanks for bringing that up, and for noticing.
Well,
that.
It's really good. What are you working on now, as far as music goes?
Well, I just released another single, something much lighter. It's just a blues, kind of a fun blues shuffle called "Take It Off." Yes. And that's available for streaming, and I'm writing right now, and once I get my creative juices flowing, I want to record it while things are kind of fresh, and while you're feeling inspired, and so it's a never-ending journey to continue to craft your songs and try to, how can I say this or play this a little bit better, and get to the most pure, clear way of communicating.
That's the great thing for me. One of the great things about blues is the emotion, the sensitivity. The big one is the vulnerability that a lot of the artists show, and they're willing to go out into public and sing it. And you don't see that often anymore with these stadium shows, etc.
Right. Some people, they have tracks,
Yeah.
or they may have an entire incredible band that no matter what they do, it's going to be fine.
Yeah.
But there is a thing about, I'm trying to think of anybody that's become known for accomplishing something. There was not some level of risk involved in, taking a chance on yourself.
Yes.
And on your beliefs. And somebody like Quincy Jones, who I got to meet at South by Southwest in 2009, I remember it, he said that music is the only thing that stimulates your left and right brain at the same time. And there's nothing else that does that. And so that was another thing that inspired me to write a song about that called Music Sets You Free. But he was told when Michael Jackson first wanted to work with him, people said, that's never going to work. Quincy Jones, he's a jazz guy. And then Quincy said, that's all you had to say was, I can't do it. And it's those people, there's something that I admire about that, the fight in them. And I think most people admire that. Absolutely. Whatever it is, that at least you're, willing to take a chance on yourself and what you believe in. So yeah, that's
and put it out there.
Yeah,
I mean, that's to me, that's the amazing thing of what you and your brother and sisters in blues do. Some of the lyrics are the breakups, the heartache, the good times too, of course. Yes. But a lot of it's blues for a reason, right?
Some of the stuff, it can be, you're bringing up a great point, Chris, because there's music and songs for all different situations and moods. You got your fun party music, you got your sexy music, you have your fun music and rock and roll, but sometimes you have something it's not that.
Yep. It's
about another set of emotions, and boy, there's a lot of those.
Yes.
It's bigger than the rainbow.
Yeah.
There's more emotions than there are colors in the rainbow. That's for sure. Different shades of them and different degrees, and how it affects us psychologically. I'm very fascinated by just the psychological effect of life on us, because we're all going through it. And that's the other thing about blues and music is, sometimes we feel like nobody understands what we're going through. Like my son this morning, one of my sons was having a real hard time, and he was really kind of freaking out. Yeah. And I knew what he was going through, because I've been through it also. Yeah. And as a parent, sometimes there's those, teachable moments where as a parent, it's your turn to, maybe you could do something here. And whatever I did the right thing. And basically I paid attention to him, to what his problem was. Yeah. And I helped him fix it. Because sometimes I feel this way. I have a problem, or I have several problems, and I need help. And life can be so overwhelming that, we could freeze and not know what to do, like the deer in headlights, kind of thing. And I get it.
You have empathy, and I think you see it in a lot of musicians, but particularly blues musicians, the real ones.
Yeah, the real ones.
They have felt it, and so.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool. Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
How did the blues discover you?
Oh wow! I like the way you put the little twist on there.
Yes.
So, because most people say, "How did you discover the blues?" But it's really, "How did the blues discover you?" is a great way to phrase it. I have memories. I grew up in Connecticut.
Yes.
So I remember I would trying to remember at what point.
That blues mecca of Connecticut.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. I was really into the classic rock of Led Zeppelin and Jimi Hendrix and Cream. And I went to my dad, and he knew all these people. He knew them personally and everything. So I said, Dad, you got to check this out, and like I want to learn how to do this. And he said, if you want to learn what they're doing, you need to listen to Robert Johnson and Muddy Waters and B.B. King. And so, back then it was records, and also you're a DJ. And so I remember I was living in Westport, Connecticut, and we got the University of Hartford blues channel from the college there.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing Howlin' Wolf's voice. And I remember like the first time I heard it, and I never heard anything like that before.
Yes.
And it was, I think it was 300 pounds, maybe it was 300 pounds of joy. Might have won it, whatever it was. I was like, whoa. That's the most, it was like a slap in the face, I never heard anything that intense. You're talking about emotion and power. And then my dad said, go get the B.B. King record live at the Regal, which many people consider to be possibly the greatest live recording of all time when it comes to how the audience reacted to him and pushed him and to talk about emotion.
Yes.
So I went and got that, and I remember listening to it in the basement and just getting chills.
Yeah.
And to this day I still get chills. Yeah. And there's not that many things that do that. Like what's going to happen. You've heard it thousands of times, and yet
you discover something new almost every time. Yeah.
And that's the thing. And even things that, I've made it a point to study history and recordings and go back and learn and analyze it. And even after all that, there's always still something that I never heard that before, or I never heard it in that way. And something happens in your life to you that changes you, and now you hear the song in another way.
Yes. The lyrics now,
they have a different meaning.
You understand them, or there's a whole nother meaning.
Yes, and I would say like something like that is Fire and Rain by James Taylor, right? Because I always loved that song. What a pretty song, but there was always this sadness in it, and I'm like, well, what's up with that? And then when I found out it was about his girlfriend dying in a plane crash, oh my goodness. Now, whoa, that's really heavy.
Yeah.
Now, Sweet Dreams and Pieces on the Ground, oh my goodness. How do you stop from crying about something like that? Yeah. So that's the beauty of music and how those songs, and I know the artificial intelligence is out there and they can, get closer and closer. But it's never, I don't think humans want to be entertained by just a robot or by an artificial thing. I think it's still, hopefully, otherwise my job will be eliminated.
I won't have one either.
And they also say, the end of the world only happens once.
Yeah.
So,
if
it's going to happen, it's going to happen once. Your money won't matter. Nothing will matter. So
I love what you said about lyrics. I have particularly two songs, which are actually not blues songs, that I am actually at the point right now I can't listen to. It's just too much, and because the things that happen in people's lives, and you're right, they change.
Oh yeah.
It's
and then it's like,
oh boy,
this is something more than I realized. And
yes,
wow,
yes. Yeah. And how did they have the power to write that? The smarts, the knowledge, and again, I really see that a lot in the blues. One more final question. I know you've played with some real heavyweights. I wrote a couple down here, BB and Buddy. And so, but can you tell us the story about Duke Robillard and how he kind of helped maybe even quote unquote discover you? I wouldn't put it that
well,
but he did help a lot.
In a way, he did discover me. He didn't know who I was. And again, this comes back to it happened in Connecticut, that mecca of blues. I was a teacher at a school called the National Guitar Workshop, and he was doing a master class, and he came, and we'd have faculty concerts. And there was also happened to be Reb Beach, the guitarist from Winger,
Ah.
was also doing
Okay.
a master class. It was
Yeah.
also one of the guest artists. And for one reason or another, Reb Beach had requested me to play with him. Normally he would request a rock, more of a hard rock faculty member. But they said he wants to do like James Brown and funk songs, and he wants you to play with him, and so okay, and so we're jamming up there, and then the drummer, I don't remember who it was, but he was playing so hard because these rock guys, they play pretty hard and loud. He broke his kick drum head, his bass drum head.
Yeah.
But the concert wasn't over. He said, let me put a new head on it, and let's take a short break, and I'll put a new head on it. And then so during the break, Duke Robillard, who was in the audience, came up to me and said, do you mind if I sit in with you guys? And I said, go right ahead. Wow, this is amazing. And it's weird. It's almost like an out-of-body experience because I was on stage with those guys. You had Murali Coryell, Duke Robillard, and Reb Beach. Three different people, three different ages, three different styles. And for some reason, I have a vision of me being in the audience, seeing us all up there. Now, I don't know how that's impossible, but this is the way it's going in my mind.
Yes.
And so afterwards, Duke and we talked, and he said, oh, man, you're really good. And he took my number, and then...
What did you figure when he took your number? Did you think you'd ever hear from him?
I didn't. I probably didn't think so.
Yeah.
But as fate would have it, his guitarist Paul Murphy, who was a legendary guitarist from Rhode Island, big baseball fan too. He died. He suddenly died in Brazil, and Duke had just released a new album on Virgin Records, and he wanted his full band. He wanted another guitarist, and so he said, Murali. He called me, and Murali, he says, I'm playing a show near you with Los Lobos. Can you come down and I'll give you a bunch of my cassette tapes to learn, and then I'm going to have you audition. And then he flew me out to Louisville, Kentucky, where he was living at the time, and he said, I'd learned some of the songs, and we started playing, and then he goes, stop. He goes, that's it. That's what I want.
Oh,
perfect. He said that feel. I was like, at first I said, oh no, I'm
that
fired.
You were in trouble.
Yeah. He said that, and he goes to the drummer and he goes, you see that feel? That feel. That's what I want. And then it was incredible. And then we embarked on a world tour, and.
How old were you at the time?
24.
Beautiful.
And 2 weeks after being with him, I got signed to my first record deal. And that was because he was featuring me on vocals and guitar. Mostly it was his stuff, but he would, most nights, 1 or 2 songs, Murali, you do these, And so, and Duke also, I'm going to credit him with teaching me the right way to change a guitar string. Because he said, what, your dad never showed you how to? I said, not really. I said, he kind of left before I really got into playing guitar. So he said, okay, I'll show you how to do this. You know? And so, and Duke, he turned me on to people like Johnny Taylor. He said, Murali, with your voice, you should listen to this guy. Those are the mentors, the people that they can kind of spot your talent and what would be good for you.
Yeah.
I mean, B.B. King did the same thing. Buddy Guy did the same thing. My dad, Duke Robillard, Joe Louis Walker, all those people, they all took the time to actually pay attention and to know that you were serious enough that they're going to tell you something that you're going to want to listen to it.
And
it's
implement
good.
It.
Yeah.
You went and implemented, obviously.
And it's the kind of thing that you can't get it from a lawyer, or a psychiatrist.
Understood.
Not in the same way.
Understood.
You can't go to school for some of those things. It's the real life school.
Real experience.
Yeah.
What a fabulous discussion. Thank you. We are looking forward to your acoustic show this evening.
Thanks.
Thank you very much, sir.
Chris, thank
Great,
you.
Great. The
It's a
history, holy cow.
It's a pleasure. You really know your stuff, my friend.
Well,
And
honor to interview you, my friend. Thank you very much.
the pleasure is all mine.
Well, thank you. Thank you again from Don Odell's Legends, the Devil DJ here in Boston, Chris Murali Coryell with us this evening. Thank you, everybody.
Peace.